Okay, it being 10 a.m., let me call this meeting to order of the District of Tofino Regular Council meeting for January 27th, 2015. And I will first ask if there are any amendments or additions to the agenda. Councillor Vick.
Yes, I have a late business item that I would like to add to the agenda, and I did send Council and CAO a notice of that yesterday.
Do you want to just describe quickly the
reason,
topic?
The topic is
reason,
the Civic Rim National Park Reserve paving contract and the opportunities that exist around that.
Okay, so Councillor Thick, I think, is moving to amend the agenda to include an item under new business regarding the Pacific Rim National Park paving contract. Is there a seconder?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Blanchette. Any discussion? All right, I'll call the question. All in favor of amending the agenda? Thank you. Motion is carried. So then, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
Motion to adopt agenda as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Thick. Seconded by Councillor Thurgood. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. So we have some minutes from the regular council meeting held January 13th, 2015.
Move adoption.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Blanchette. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. First item of business is a notice of motion. This is under business arising from the minutes. A notice of motion that Councillor Thick said that she would be preparing for us at our last meeting. And so, Councillor Thick, would you like to read your motion?
The motion is that staff prepare a computer policy for council members that provides for the use of district-owned equipment or equipment provided by council members with reasonable compensation, but without technical support from the district.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? I'll call again. Is there a seconder for the motion? Okay, then we move on. Sorry, Councillor Thick. Announcements from the mayor. I have none today. We have no delegations, and so we'll move into correspondence for information only. An item from the Fishes and Loaves Humane Society thanking us for our support of their efforts by providing the community hall for their use for their lunch program. And we don't need to have a formal motion to receive the correspondence because it's in our package and we've approved the agenda. So we'll move into correspondence requiring action. The first is a letter from the Association of Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities regarding the second call for resolutions and nominations to be addressed at the 2015 AGM and Convention. And I have been in contact with all members of council, and so I will continue to work with the staff to coordinate our travel to ABICC, and I think most members of council are intending to go. The call for the deadline for resolutions is February 23rd, so we do have another council meeting to bring forward any resolutions that you wish to consider. But now, if there's anything you wanted to highlight that you've been thinking about, of course it's not a requirement, so that we can just keep moving. Okay, fair enough. The second item of correspondence is a letter from myself, how funny, to invite us, the District of Tofino, to attend a regional community-to-community forum, and this is being organized by the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, and the invitation has gone out to all local governments, First Nations, and several community organizations to attend a one-day workshop called Ninixu Hahopia, and it's or Teachings of the Grandparents. It's led by John Rampinen. It's a workshop that I've attended twice before. It's incredibly educational and very interesting to learn about traditional governance of Nuu-chah-nulth First Nations. And this would be the point where council should consider if you wish to attend and who would like to attend, or you may wish to approve attendance of anyone who wishes to go. What are you thinking? Yes, Councillor
I'm
Anderson.
interested in going.
Okay. Others?
I too am interested.
Okay. Councillor Thurgood?
The 27th.
Don't have to
Yeah.
say for now, but I think this is the time for council to
Sure, I'd be
decide. Would you like to?
interested. I'll be back from home. by
Okay.
then, yeah.
If you're interested in this, you could move to approve the travel and attendance of up to X councillors or all of council. I'm not included because I'll already be there through the ECRD, but Councillor Anderson.
that the approval of council members, up to all of them attending the community forum.
Second. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Thick. Any discussion? Call the question and all in favor? Thank you. So the motion is carried. Our third piece of correspondence is a letter from Elisabeth Smith and Leonard Imbery regarding dog feces. And as they say in their letter, this is a topic that's been talked about on Facebook. It's a topic that several of us have engaged with community members about. Elizabeth provides a number of ideas and suggestions. And although there's no specific request in the letter, I think this is something that council may wish to discuss further and may decide to act upon. Who would like to lead off? Councillor Vick?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I know it's not the first time this discussion has come up, and it certainly won't be the last. And from what I understand, this is a major topic of conversation in many communities and municipalities in British Columbia. So we're not different in that. I really hear the writer's plea to do something. That's what I'm hearing from that, and I do agree that there seems to be growing numbers of dogs in our community, and it seems to be a growing problem. So I don't have an ironclad motion in this regard, but I do think that there's some way that we can begin to educate the community about the health risks for certain. And I do think that we could enable people to become more the stewards of the environment, I think is the way to put it. So I'm thinking about the opportunity that we could have that would be simple through, I noticed I know it's a bigger city and I know it's not in Canada, but in other communities, one of which was Austin, Texas, they actually published their bylaw and their policy on their website, and it's under environment. And I just thought, is there an opportunity that we could do something simple to bring people's awareness to this in terms of just the health risk? And I don't know if we need a policy at this time, but is there a chance that we could, or do we need a policy? That's the question, a bylaw or policy, or do we just try to educate people through our website or the water bills as to this is just a growing problem? I'm just interested in what other people have to say.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Yeah, to me, I think a lot of people are responsible and do clean up after their dogs. Some dogs are left to wander the beaches by themselves for periods of time. I think that's where part of the problem comes from, that if you're not in attendance, you don't know where your dog might have left its business. And so I think it's a bit of a matter of better education. I really can't see, without following dogs around, what a bylaw officer or what the district can do outside of just telling people again and again. And we do provide bags, so it might be a good topic to raise at a town hall meeting as well, just as part of it. I'm not sure what sort of campaign we want to start, or if we even do, but reminding people over and over again, I guess, is about all that can be done. So.
Thank you. Councillor Thurgood?
I would, I'd like to see a few more bag dispensers around town. I know this is coming out of tax dollars, but I think the only one I can think of is there's one over in the park, one or two in the park, and that's it. But there are none in the downtown core. It's not so much the beach area because they are at the access to the beach entrance, but around town, yeah, it'd be nice to see a couple more in locations, because when the dog's got to go, it's got to go. Yeah. And if you don't have a bag on your leash, it'd be good to have the bags around. So that would be helpful. And plus the education, whether it be written or verbal, dealings with an individual whose dog does its business by our bylaw people, by citizens in the community, to remind people to, hey, pick it up.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, there's been quite a strong call on Facebook for action on this by some local ranting ravers, shall we say. I'm not convinced that that bylaw is able to do anything about this. It's just a matter of dogs spread all over town 24 hours a day, basically. And it would be unlikely that a bylaw officer or even several bylaw officers would be in attendance to catch them in the act. So I'm pretty convinced that it's a kind of a social education project. The district can sort of do a little bit about that, putting ads in the rec guides, that sort of thing. But I'd almost like to see an outfit like the Res or a local nonprofit take it on as a partly a challenge and an environmental issue. But once you start looking around on the internet, you see that it's an issue everywhere, which is a bit strange. It's not like people go out to walk their dogs and are surprised that the dog has to do its business. It happens every time. So I would think you would just take a bag with your leash when you go, as a matter of course. That said, I was dog sitting over Christmas and did get caught out a couple of times, and I was pleased to find bag dispensers where I needed them. So I think I agree with Councillor Thorogood. A couple more bag dispensers around town would be a good idea. But I think we're just going to have to get the people to call people out. If they see somebody leaving dog's business behind, you've got to say, excuse me, that's not acceptable in this town. Maybe that will go. The other thing is, as Councillor Anderson pointed out, a lot of this dog food probably comes from dogs that are left to run around unattended. And I see our dog bylaw says that all dogs entering in with the District of Tofino shall be under the control of the owner or harborer and be leash tethered or contained within a vehicle. So I think basically that says when the dog comes into town, it's got to be either contained in a vehicle or a cage or on a leash. And I think there's a flaw in that, as most dog owners will acknowledge, a dog needs to run in order to be healthy. We don't want a bunch of imprisoned dogs in town. So I think we need to take a look at our bylaw and sort of bring it a bit up to date. This was back from 2001. And start looking at some off-leash areas in town. And maybe by doing that, we could contain the dog poo question into a smaller area. And then we could also more legitimately enforce a rule that dogs in town at least must be on leash and make that a bylaw offense. And an enforceable one. That's a bit easier to enforce than the whole dog poo question.
Thank you. Before we go any further, I just wanted to ask if there's any staff comment on the letter, and then I have some suggestions.
Sure, I thought I'd just brief council on what we do right now. We certainly consider the issue of dog scat, health and safety. So during the summer program, during patrols and no patrolling every day, they typically will go up to people, start a conversation by asking if you had any problems with dogs at large. Then they educate them about needing to be on leash, and they educate them about picking up after the dogs. They hand out bags, and then they also make sure dogs are licensed, because we found that there seem to be quite a few dogs that do run around at large in Tofino, and when we have them licensed, then we can get back to owners. And we've certainly had bylaw officers have had discussions with owners when they found them at large. They call the owners. Owners will say, well, my dog's good, he's always at large, and then that leads to the conversation of, if he's at large, then how are you picking up after him? In winter months, we focus primarily on complaint-driven enforcement. And so another message out to the public is that they need to lodge complaints with us, and we haven't received any. And that probably fits in with a little bit of community members helping to encourage one another to pick up after their dogs and be responsible owners.
Thank you. Any questions of that?
Or should I can just add to that,
Yep.
the comment was made, a suggestion was made that we get more bag dispensers out there. That's something that staff initiated last week, so we're looking for locations, and we think, yeah, the parks that are downtown are a very good first step, I think that, and then we're double checking to make sure that all the entrances to the beaches do have bag dispensers. We do try to put them in locations next to garbage cans and where our vehicles can access them for servicing. So prior to the busy season, we'll have a few more out there.
Okay, thank you. So that definitely addresses Councillor Thurgood's concern. You don't need any motions to keep moving forward on that, which is great. Councillor Thick.
So further to Councillor Blanchett's comments and others, I just wonder whether to just sort of bring this to some kind of conclusion, whether staff review of the 2001 bylaw would be prudent and investigate avenues of possible avenues of public education in this regard. Because it seems like it doesn't quite capture, but I think what we're saying is we don't really want to task bylaw with this, but we really need to remind each other and hold each other accountable for this. And I'm saying each other because most of us here either know dogs or have dogs. So I don't know, I put together just one sentence motion that might help.
Let's hear it.
Bring it together. Staff to review the 2001 bylaw, if that's correct, on dog defecation and investigate further avenues of public education in this regard.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Blanchett, thank you. Discussion, Councillor Thurgood?
I would like to see it go further than just to review it for the dog defecation, even though that's the issue. Prior to the 2001 amendment or change of the bylaw, dogs within the downtown core from 4th to May, 1st, and this sort of thing, they had to be on leash, or were supposed to be on leash. Other dogs had to be under, if you were out on the beach, your dog had to be under your control, not necessarily on a leash. And the council today changed the bylaw that all dogs had to be on leash. And I know I used to take my dogs to the beach, and they'd be under my control. I'd be there with them, and I just felt it was going a little bit too far, as Councillor Blanchett said. Dogs need to be exercised, and I know other communities have restrictions as to when your dog can be off leash. For instance, Chesterman Beach, at the access is between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Dogs would be, people would be expecting that dogs could be off leash then. Not necessarily that they all will be, but that they could be. And it was just sort of an alert to the people that have a fear of dogs. But it's made that change in the bylaw in 2001 made it that if your dog was off leash, you're committing a bylaw offense. And I don't think that's great, but I also agree with Councillor Thick that it's not a huge priority for the bylaw enforcement, best use of the bylaw enforcement personnel. So I'd be supportive of the motion, but to let it go a little bit further than just to deal with the defecation.
Okay, so I would suggest, if everyone is okay, we'll just agree to amend a motion so that we remove the specific reference to the dog feces, which opens up the review of the bylaw for, general issues which we've been discussing, which include on leash and off leash. And the education and awareness, I think it's fine. So if everyone's okay, could you reread your motion, and Councillor Thick, and just remove that?
Sir, I don't know the number of the bylaw.
It's animal control bylaw.
Okay, so staff to review 2001 animal control bylaw
And investigate.
and investigate further avenues of public education.
Thank you.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Mhm.
So we're all okay with that? That's how the motion will read then. That's the motion on the floor. Yes, Councillor Blanchette?
There is the notion, or the prospect of bylaw enforcement, but I understand that you are convening a town hall shortly about bylaw enforcement, so maybe we could make sure that the issue of dog feces and dogs in general are on that, on the agenda of that meeting.
I couldn't agree more. I think the next step is definitely to have conversations with the public. There's a lot of opinions and thoughts out there. And yes, later on the agenda, I have a motion that we do convene, and it'll be a District of Tofino Mayor and Council Town Hall meeting, so we will all be there.
So just a point of clarification on
Yes.
this, and further avenues of public education on anything in particular, or?
Dog issues? Or do you
Yeah.
want this to be specifically about the dog feces? Maybe it should be specific to that. That's what the letter was about, and let's deal with that. And I think some great suggestions have been made about education and awareness. Councillor Anderson?
Education about cleaning up after your dog.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Councillor
Just to
Blanchette?
bring up a point that Councillor McMaster has brought up in the past, is that he said that dog license fees should go toward the dog problem, be it dispensers or something else. Just wondering if you or staff know how much we get in the way of dog license fees? Ideas?
Less than $1,500 in the last couple of years, so, which means there are fewer than 100 dogs licensed in town, so I'm thinking there are more dogs than that in town, so that might be part of what we can do moving forward and discuss with the communities. How can we get people more interested in licensing their animals?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's not millions, unfortunately.
Okay, any other comment on the motion? All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. The motion's carried. All right, and the next is a piece of correspondence from Rachel Dziama. She's the, I think she's the president of the student union at Ucluelet Secondary School. She wrote to council last fall to initiate a relationship or a partnership with us. The student council is interested in learning more about municipal government and how it operates. And I would be more than happy to follow up with her and come back to council and make some suggestions for how we could work with the Ucluelet Secondary School student council. Councillor Anderson?
Move that the mayor contact Rachel Dziama and discuss, and bring back ideas to how the student council could work with us.
Great, thanks. Seconder, thank you. Councillor Blanchette, any discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay,
Well done.
great.
Support it.
All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. Okay, so that brings us to the end of correspondence, and we'll move into reports. We have two. The first is regarding the scholarship and bursary awards that we provide to Ucluelet Secondary School. And we have always in the past provided some amount. Last year, I believe it was last year, that we upped the amount to $1,500. And the staff have come forward, based on the request for the 2015 scholarship to the Ucluelet Secondary School, staff have come forward with a recommendation that we provide the $1,500 as we did last year, but that we also set that for the next 4 years. And that way we are complete for the council term, and this, we could let the high school know, and then this doesn't come back each year. What are your wishes? Councillor Thick?
Yeah, I agree with of course, I was part of that whole discussion, but I did want to bring up one point, and the point is under the criteria of the District of Tofino Award. And the reason I bring this up is because in the Clayoquot Biosphere Trust, where I serve, also there's been an ongoing problem with people receiving a scholarship and then deferring it. So I think one thing that we should consider in the criteria is because I know of this issue, and because it has to do with finances, delay and then bringing back. In other words, okay, I don't want it this year, but I want to go to school next year, and then it creates an accounting problem. So I'm wondering in the criteria if we should be a bit more particular, or we should specify in the year of which it was awarded, or something to that effect. It's a question that I have, we have run into in
At
another
the CBT.
organization.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
Well, so your worship, our scholarships are granted upon enrollment, so we don't immediately issue a check. The amount of these doesn't really create an accounting headache or a budgeting headache for us. It is quite common, it seems increasingly common for young people graduating high school to take a gap year in this country, more common historically than other places in the world. So I wouldn't want to start to disqualify, a very small graduating class to begin with, I wouldn't want to start to disqualify people for their desire to take a gap year. It is something we can administrate.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, if that's not a problem for us, then that's not a problem for me, I'm okay with that. And then the only other point that I've run into in this same area is maintaining a specific or achieving an average. Like, does the person get it if they take that and fail? Or in other words, I don't know, there's just a few other things about this that the criteria bring up, and I'm okay to give it in good faith, but at the CBT, there's been issues around on multi-year awards that people might take a 2-year gap year and then it comes back, or they failed a semester, and does that entitle them to the award? These are just a couple of questions I had for the council to consider in the criteria.
Councillor Thick, are you saying fail the semester in a post-secondary?
Yes, that's happened. And so then, but in this particular case, as maybe it's we're not giving a multi-year, is that correct? So we're only giving a one-time
Correct.
award.
Correct.
So then perhaps the issue of failure doesn't enter into the discussion.
I think so.
But it
The
does bring
award
up a
isn't high
point.
enough that it's going to bleed across multiple years. $1,500 gets eaten up pretty quickly. And if it goes
Understood.
to 2 people, it's $750 each or something.
Councilor Anderson?
For the amount of it, I wouldn't want to see too many restrictions or criteria on it. It's, probably barely a month's rent if you're going to university. It is some assistance, but it might not even cover your books for a year.
Thank you. Councilor Blanchett?
I see the criteria say awarded to a student who's planning to pursue any post-secondary school education. Who decides whether, if somebody wants to go to, tattoo school or something?
The scholarship committee makes the decision. So
And we're satisfied with that?
we have always been in the past, yeah. That type of thing hasn't been an issue. It's a post-secondary institution of some kind, a registered program. Councilor Turvey?
I know last year we increased it from 1,000 to 1,500, and that 1,000 I think was for one student,
Correct,
and now we've gone to 1,500 for 2, so.
for up to 2.
For
So it's
up to
the
2,
high
yes,
school uses
yeah.
their discretion in awarding this, and last year they awarded it, they split it in half and they gave it to 2 students, but at their discretion, depending on the number of graduates and what they're doing and who's from Tofino, we let them figure that out.
All right, because I was going to suggest that maybe it's 17 and 18,
Right.
that we up it 500 more, but, okay, so that's up to 2 students.
If someone moves this motion and it's seconded and passes, then this doesn't mean that can't come back or that
Sure.
somebody can't raise it in the light of new information in our term, but this would kind of streamline things. Councilor Anderson?
I would move the motion, or the recommendation.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. So it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on this? I'll call the question then. All in favor? Thank you. The motion is carried. Okay, and we have a request from the Central Westcoast Forest Society that the District of Tofino appoint a member of council to sit on their board. We have a great report from our staff, thank you very much, Jane, that provides a bit more background on our practice of appointing, some pros and cons, and the policy that we have, which would not technically permit us to do this. So this is a decision for council, there's no recommendation from staff. It's for our consideration. Councillor Fitt?
Yeah, I've thought about this, and I personally agree with the staff report, and I don't think that what's being asked of us meets our criteria. And I have some reservation in regards to whether this seat, I know it says, I'm writing to request that a representative from the district be appointed to the board of directors, but I see that in the document of incorporation that it says, I thought it said 5 directors, yet at the same time it mentions all the different organizations that do hold a seat and they exceed 5. So I'm a little bit puzzled by that. And the second thing I was puzzled by was a resolution that was passed further to their incorporation, which states that a particular individual who holds what I would consider perhaps conflict of interest holds a seat on the board. So I am a little bit, this is my feeling, and I haven't spoken to anybody else about it, that to sit on this board may be a conflict of interest for one of our members. But as I say, there's a few question marks that I don't know. And I don't, if someone else can enlighten me, that would be fine.
I think we should just talk about whether the District of Tofino wishes to appoint a representative to their board or not. And you've made it clear what your feelings are, and thank you for that. Are there any other thoughts? Councillor Blanchett?
I don't really see a need for us, for the council to be that connected with this organization. They do a lot of work in and around the District of Tofino. But I think a delegation or a letter can inform us adequately of what that work is. So I would say that we don't really need to appoint a district representative.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor?
Yes, I don't see a great need to be on that, and I was unaware in the past of some of the things that are pointed out in the staff report, and I actually was at one point a council representative quite a while ago, and I think they like to have all communities there. It gives their organization better ability to apply for grants and so on. But I think they might need to get their constitution in order a bit before we participate.
Okay. Well, I think the Central Westcoast Forest Society does fantastic work. I have written several letters of support for them in their funding applications for work that they do in the District of Tofino. I think that it would be appropriate to just respectfully decline the opportunity, thank them for their good work, ask them to forward their minutes to us of meetings, and ask them to come make a delegation to council and tell us more about their work. It's a good way to stay involved and support them, but that it's not our practice to appoint council members to sit on the boards of a lot of external organizations. Councillor Fitt?
I would agree with you, and I also would like to hear that in the context of this room. And if there's something that's very pertinent to our council, our community, wow, we can roll with that. We can make a decision together and just move right on. And I think that, to Councillor Blanchett, I think it's more effective perhaps. And I would strongly support the delegation once a year or once every however long. I think that would be perfect.
Okay. So let's turn that into motion language.
I move that we write a letter such as you described.
Okay. So I think Councillor Blanchett just moved that we return to correspondence, thank them for their work, respectfully decline the opportunity to appoint a member to their board, a request that minutes be forwarded, and that they make a delegation to council to inform us of their work. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Thick. Any final discussion? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. That's great. Okay, so no bylaw work today, and then we have 2 items of new business. First of all, the notice of motion for me, and then we'll move into Councillor Thick's late item. So as you know, and I've discussed this with you in a regular council meeting before, that I thought it would be good for the District of Tofino to be proactive in holding a town hall meeting this year to discuss with the community bylaw enforcement priorities and talk to them more about some of the bylaw issues that do crop up in conversations on the street, on Facebook, other places. And I have contacted the RCMP ahead of time, and they've agreed to co-host that with us because they like to have a community meeting as well every year, but it's really poorly attended. And so I thought this would be a nice way to discuss some enforcement issues together with the community. So I will move that the District of Tofino and the RCMP co-host a town hall meeting on Thursday, March 5th, 2015, or another mutually agreeable date on bylaw enforcement and community policing, and that staff, the mayor and the RCMP coordinate and develop the agenda for the meeting.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Any discussion on that? Councillor Blanchett? Or,
Councillor Thick had her hand up.
okay, Councillor Thick, ladies first.
I would like to see it a slightly later date. First of all, I think it would be really important if Councillor Thurgood was there, because he's got quite a background of knowledge, but also, I wonder whether when I understand why it's good to have it early, because we've got to get the wheels in motion for what we're about to do, but would anyone else think that perhaps slightly later, where we don't have people away on holiday, or, you know, it's more, a slightly more immediate, or is it wiser to put it at an earlier time, so that we kind of get moving on the things that we need to move forward on? That's my only question on
Okay.
this one.
So 2 replies. First is when I spoke with the RCMP, they said that that would be fantastic for them because they already, again, like you said, they set the wheels in motion for their planning, and that date works really well for them, or that early works really well for them. That's not to say I can't go back and discuss that with them further. The second part is just in our own decision-making and in budget deliberations as well, that I think slightly earlier rather than pushing it too late, because I'm wondering if, Jane, if you have any comment on timing of the hiring of seasonal bylaw, or by when do we usually discuss these
Well,
issues?
Well, my general understanding is when I've talked with the RCMP, the issues that come up in the summer are pretty much perennial, they're the same ones, and so that's what we focus on. So we usually start recruitment in, I'd have to look at my timelines, to have people hired in here to start for mid-May, which is when the long weekend is, and which is the direction we've received from council. We probably start in March to recruit. And I think it's also important to keep in mind that the people that we've been able to recruit for summer bylaw enforcement, we're lucky if they have any training, but they're inexperienced. And it's only a 4-month program, so they're just getting, this is not to say that these these individuals have not worked well for the district. I think that they have, but we have to be mindful of what tasks that we're giving them to do with their backgrounds.
Councillor Thick, I have no problem going back and seeing if pushing it to the end of the month would work for the RCMP. I think it would be okay with us on our end, would it?
Yes, you know, Your Worship, we would be quite pleased to have more time to prepare for this. And this is a busy time of year for
Yeah.
district staff. But just to manage expectations, as was just said, if there's an expectation that the result of a town hall meeting will result in us resourcing ourselves differently, the later we get, the more challenging
Right,
that would be.
right.
But if we're looking to have a discussion about long-term, like what's the next 5 years like for bylaw enforcement, which I think is an appropriate way to think.
Yeah.
Another month does not matter.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Councillor Blanchett, sorry, you were waiting.
According to my notes here, Councillor Thurgood is back on the 15th of March.
Actually, 13th, I'm back into the,
Okay,
So we might not have to push it to the end of the month.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
okay. Okay.
And my other comment was
Mhm.
that March 5th is the night of a full moon, so whether that might help with attendance or...
Or not be so great. Good point.
But I do question why the attendance was so poor. Was it a publicity thing, or is this something
For the
people are not
RCMP,
interested in? Town hall
You've got
policing.
me, I'm not sure, so I don't know. But we'll try it with a different approach and see if we can get more people out. I think talking about dogs means people will come out. Yeah, for sure.
We'll give out free dogs.
Okay, so we'll just leave the motion as it's written because it does allow for moving the date if needed. And I will get back to you ASAP. Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. Okay, and so now Councillor Thick has some late business regarding the paving contract in Pacific Rim National Park Reserve. Take it away.
Well, as most of you know, there is slated to be an $8 to $9 million project, which means a repaving, a resurfacing, and filling in the potholes in the Pacific Rim National Park between kilometers 0 and 21, slated to occur before the end of, I think, October 2015, which would be paving season. And as many of you are aware, there's been a number of accidents, and there have, in recent days, and many of us drive on the other side of the road to avoid the problems that exist around Long Beach now. So with that in mind, I did some research and found out that this was perhaps a golden opportunity for our community to investigate the possibilities of whether before the contract is tendered, which I believe is mid to late February, whether the national park would consider an opportunity to extend the shoulders. As many of you know, the shoulders are anywhere between 2 inches from the fog line to 2 or 3 feet, and they change in many places. And this road hasn't been paved, as I understand from local knowledge, in 45 to 50 years. We may never get this opportunity for another 45 or 50 years. So I'm speaking to this opportunity, and the motion I have written is just whether Parks Canada would include 2 bike lanes or sufficient paved shoulders in the tendering of their highway paving contract. So, would you like me to read the motion
Yes,
first?
please.
And that the District of Tofino Mayor and Council request that Parks Canada include 2 bike lanes and or sufficient paved road shoulders in the upcoming Pacific Rim National Park Reserve Highway paving contract, and that the District of Tofino Mayor and Council contact neighboring local governments and First Nations, our Member of Parliament, and our Member of the Legislative Assembly, urging their support for this.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
Awesome.
Thank you, Councillor Fairwood. All right. Any discussion or questions? Councillor Anderson.
I would support it. I just have a feeling that they may have decided what's going into the contract already. If it's, you know, but it doesn't hurt to put that out there. I think Pacific Rim National Park is aware that we've been looking for better bike lanes and along that route, and hopefully they've taken that into consideration. So yeah, I think we should do what we can.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Blanchett?
Just for the public's knowledge, are we clear exactly the contract talks about Highway 4, kilometer 0 to kilometer 21.5?
That's
Is that
within the national park.
within the national park?
Correct.
So not anywhere in the District of Tofino? or-
No, that's a federal highway, that section
Yeah.
of the road.
And is the entire road to be repaved, or just the faulty sections of it?
No, it's a resurfacing of the entire road.
So we're talking about quite a bit of traffic disturbance then for our entire summer season.
Yes,
looks like.
yeah, so there'll be work to do there too, communicating that to people. And We'll have 369 hydro poles also being replaced on Highway 4 this summer, so it's gonna be a busy summer on the road. Councillor Anderson?
We've had lots of projects every summer on the highway, so it's not I don't think it'll be much different than any other summer where there's sometimes 2 or 3 projects going on the highway.
Councillor Fick?
Yeah, and I do hear what you're saying, Councillor Anderson, and I realize it's a bit of a shot in the dark, but having talked to local contractors here, they feel that there is an opportunity, a golden opportunity right now before it's tendered to, there's lots of wiggle room according to local contractors here, where this could be encompassed. And although I am a cyclist, and that is a concern of mine, I think the most important thing for me is safety. And I just think that there's, the next motion will speak to this too, but I think that there's a huge component of safety that we have an opportunity to leverage here, and that's really my number one. There's people commuting by road, walking and biking from Tyus-Stannis to Tofino to work too, and there's people within the park who want to ride bikes. There's 2 Winnebagos, there's 2 trucks on the road, and whoa, it's not even I don't think up to provincial road width standard, let alone the shoulder issue as well. So it's just sort of opening people's eyes to the possibility. That's what this is.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Blanchette?
Yes, thanks for bringing this up, Councillor Fick. I agree with you that this is the time to do it. I also agree with Councillor Anderson that it may well be decided, but that's no reason not to make our wishes known. I see that the contract calls for removing existing asphalt by milling, which will make for a less than aesthetic park experience as they grind the asphalt off the top of the road all the way through the park. Just wanted to point that out, but it also says that they will dispose of unused reclaimed asphalt outside the park in an environmentally friendly manner. I'm wondering if that will have any impact on our landfill. Do we know that? Should we ask that? Is that a concern?
Can't answer. Don't know. I'm sure we can find out.
I think we should find out. Also, there will be a lot of asphalt coming and going during that time period. I'm wondering if we can tie into that to do things like make MUP path improvements and or fix our local potholes. Is there any money-saving opportunities there that we need to look into?
Any comment?
2 comments. One, with respect to material that's milled and is not reusable, that actually could be an opportunity for landfill because that material could be used for cover. And I don't know how this landfill operates, but typically, you do a layer of garbage and then you cover it with an aggregate, so there might actually be an opportunity there. Back to ACRD and make sure that they know that this is at least a possibility, or the contractor does. When we saw this, we are going to be watching this process to see if there is an opportunity to piggyback Mike on an active asphalt group. My hope is that currently, I'm not sure the awareness of this, but currently asphalt is trucked about 2 hours. It comes from Parksville to be put on our roads here, which is where a lot of the cost comes from. I'm told that our asphalt cost here is about double what it is on the other side of the island. So we are looking to see if there is going to be an opportunity, yes, to deal with potholes, and we're trying to get Hellison Road from Highway 4 to the beach, a project that's shelf-ready in case we do end up with a contractor in town. So that's our number one, from a staff perspective, that's our highest priority. That I think that there are actually names for some of those potholes now.
Probably. Thank you. I think that answers your question. Any
Yeah.
other discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. The motion is carried. And I know that the paving contract did not end Councillor's thoughts or investigation, and if you want to complete your business then, please keep going.
Well, this research and conversations with local knowledge holders led me to understand that there was no possibility to, well, there would be very little possibility for partnership between the province and the feds. And we all know that the road between the Mallard Lake turnoff and Tofino is also at a very high risk in terms of safety standards. And in particular, I learned that there are 10 culverts of similar vintage to the one that collapsed on Grice Bay Road. And we are at very high risk of losing those culverts too. So I prepared a motion that would stimulate a discussion between ourselves and the province, since that is the section of road that they would be directly responsible for. And whether any partnership or, as you spoke to Councillor Blanchett, anything could come, I don't know. But all I want to do is stimulate the discussion to happen. So the motion that I've prepared reads, whereas there was a recent culvert failure on Grice Bay Road that has resulted in the closure of the road, and whereas there is local knowledge that up to 10 similar culverts of a similar age exist on Highway 4 leading into Tofino, I move that the District of Tofino immediately initiate discussion with the BC Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to investigate the state of these culverts and of highway safety in order to avert a potential road closure.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Thurgood seconds. Any discussion on this motion?
Is there a regular inspection of these culverts?
I do not know.
Any idea, Councillor?
No, I don't know, but I have heard that there was a recent report made on the state of these culverts, which I have not been privy to.
Because from the pictures that I've seen on Facebook, that failure on Grice Bay Road could have been a fatal incident for somebody had they come across it in the dark or something. So yeah, if there's similar culverts on the main highway, I think we definitely need to make sure that they're okay. We've had a lot of big rain events. It's certainly be worth inspecting them.
Yes, and what I understood, what I've been led to understand is that the multi-road culvert, and Public Works could probably help me on this as well, is that culvert is only 2 or 3 feet above tidal, and those culverts are all made of wood and at a similar age as the Grice Bay Road, and maybe as much as 100 years old. And if there were a similar breakthrough in the road as that which we've witnessed this past week at Grice Bay, the cost of the province may be in the millions to make a path to go. How would you go around such especially the one, just north of Radar Hill, where there was a near fatality accident only 2 months ago, where someone their wheel went into the soft shoulder and the car went down a hill 30-40 feet. The 2 people were trapped inside, unable to get out, and were at risk of drowning. And only because someone saw did they allow opportunity for the police to go back. But it was pretty close.
Councillor Blanchett?
Just to be clear, these are outside the district of Tofino?
No, they're within the
They're
district.
within the district. So are there liability issues here then?
It's a provincially owned highway. The province is responsible for the highway. Bob. That was funny.
Yeah, just for clarification to Councillor Thick, you mentioned a culvert. Is there one that is on Mulpey Road, which is a municipal road that you've heard concerns about?
No, I think it's just
Mulpey
right there,
It's
near.
Near
It's
Mulpey Road, on
the
provincial
head of
road,
Mulpey
it's on
Slough
highway. Okay.
under Highway 4.
Yeah, correct.
Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. All right, that brings us to the end of our business. Question period. We have a few members of the public in our audience today, and we have the reporter. Andrew.
Hey guys, awesome meeting. You guys are wrapping them up pretty quickly. I have a question for Councillor Thick. Can I please ask why you brought this notice of motion regarding the computer policy? I'm not sure if I'm getting what the motion is about.
The notice of motion was, came about because I believe was it October, we were asked to rescind a motion regarding the computer policy. Am I correct in remembering this?
We rescinded the council laptop use policy last year, correct?
And so, we were reissued computers as councillors, and some of the members of council were in favor of that and some were not. So as I understand it right now, we are without a policy on that, yet there seems to be some misunderstanding perhaps about what kind of a device should be expected to be used by council versus what councillors' wishes might be. So I was trying to just sort that out so that we would be clear and transparent.
That was awesome. Thank you very much. The next question is kind of a silly one, but the bag dispensers. May I please know how much those cost? Do we have an approximate guess for how much they would cost each?
They're a little over $100, I understand.
And is there? There was talk about sort of investigating which spots in town might be awesome for those to go. Is there an idea of how many we could expect to see installed?
Not at this time.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson.
I have a question for Councillor Blanchett. So the district has business licenses that permit a business to conduct business. We have dog licenses which permit a dog to conduct a variety of doggish activities. Is council going to suggest that we have a special dog business license that will allow a dog to conduct its business on public properties?
I'm not sure the dogs would actually be up to obeying that.
And does it allow for a variety of dog businesses? Or am I confused?
You might be confused.
As long as they have no signage.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. If I could have somebody read the notice, or sorry, read the motion to move in camera, please. Councilor Anderson?
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91A, C, and E of the Community Charter to discuss matters relating to personal information about an individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent, employee relations, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements.
Thank you. Seconder? Councilor Tate, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried.